Hello fellow brawlers, I'm KairosTime, and it is time to talk about Bo's, Tick's, and Crow's newest star powers coming later this week. You guys know the drill, I'm not even going to explain it, but make sure you subscribe for a future video where I'll actually have a tier list of all of the star powers, all 54, because this is the last week we're getting new star powers, guys. I'm excited about it. It'll be good. I mean, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. You guys have seen a million YouTube videos. I don't need to explain that to you. Or maybe I actually do, because if I didn't, then you wouldn't think about subscribing. Now, before we do get started, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. Today's been kind of a hard day. So what I want you to do is I want you to think back to your last week. Think of something that good that happened to you, Brawl Stars related or not, and just drop in the comment section below. I just need that pick me up, guys. Let's go ahead and start off with Crow's Carrying Crow, his newest star power. For this, his attack deals an additional 100 damage. That's each individual part of his attack and each individual part of his super. Okay, so what that means is each individual dagger will deal an additional 100 damage. The entire duration of his poison will also deal an extra 100 damage. Each dagger from his super will also deal an additional 100 damage if the enemy is below 50% health. So, if an enemy player is below 50% health, a full attack from 3 daggers will go from 1260 damage to 1560 if all 3 daggers hit. That's an additional 300 damage. Then his poison will also get an additional 100 damage, but it'll actually be split up between the 4 ticks, so it's an additional 25 for poison for each individual tick. You get the idea. Now, one thing about his super, I've done a little bit of testing. I actually think this is a glitch. I'm going to report it to the developers and hopefully they'll fix it. But I actually found out that this only actually applies to the daggers thrown on the way up and not on the daggers thrown when he lands. As you can see here, both bots actually have the same amount of HP at the start, but the first bot that gets hit takes 520 damage, while the second bot takes 420 damage, which is normal. And then you can also see that they actually receive different damages for the poison. Another interesting thing is that if Crow hits a target with 3 daggers, but only 1 dagger is required to get the target below 50%, the other 2 daggers will deal the additional 100 damage. So you don't even have to think about this star power being applied. It just happens automatically. Okay. I've probably spent way too much time trying to explain how all the different scenarios and how the damage gets calculated. Hopefully by now you guys get the idea. And if you don't, it probably doesn't matter. That's what you subscribe for, guys. The useless information that probably doesn't matter but is kind of fun to know sometimes. And cringe. Now, against opponents that are below 50% health, this is a 24% buff to Crow's damage. Now, I know that this isn't always the case, but let's just say 50% of the time the star power will be active and the other 50% of the time it won't be. And if we say that, it's kind of like a 12% buff to Crow's attack damage and like a 6% buff to his super damage and a 12% buff to the poison damage. That's a pretty decent buff, especially given the fact that Crow's biggest weakness is in his inability to provide consistent damage, consistent burst damage. He's really good at bursting down immediately, but it takes a long time for him to charge that burst up again. I do not think that this is a very game-breaking star power, but it will certainly help make Crow more viable. I'm kind of glad that we're done talking about that one. Next up, we got Extra Toxic, his original star power. I'm kind of feeling a little extra toxic right now. Positive comments, guys, please, positive comments. For this, Crow's poison saps the strength of enemies, and then they deal 10% less damage while they are poisoned. Now, one thing that's interesting, a lot of people don't know this, is you can actually tell if an enemy target is debuffed because of the little red arrows that will appear around the poison target. They don't just go green, there's also red arrows there. Now, if I'm being completely honest, this star power is the one that I always forget about. Like, even in my Brawl Olympics videos, like, I seem to always forget about this one. There's good reason. In a 1v1 fight where neither Crow nor his target have an opportunity to heal, we're talking about, I know this is a little backwards, but we're talking about Crow essentially having an additional 330 health because of his star power total. We're not talking about 300 health healed for every attack like Barley's star power. We're just talking about him having an additional 10% health, which is not very much because Crow is already super squishy. I am certain that it can play somewhat of a difference in matches, but honestly, I don't think that I could even say that it's a very super beneficial star power. And here's why, okay? So in any match, it's not usually beneficial or practical for Crow to focus on keeping everybody on the enemy team poisoned just so that they can all be debuffed. And it's just not beneficial. Typically, that actually would put Crow at risk of getting in range within 3 brawlers at once, and that basically spells certain doom for Crow. And like, regardless, Brawl Stars is almost always best played when you just focus on killing just one brawler at a time and gaining control on the map while they respawn, or, you know, while they have to fall back to heal up. This means that Crow will likely only have the opportunity to poison 1 brawler at a time, maybe 2 every now and then. Now, additionally, Crow has such low HP that 10% is usually not going to make the difference between him surviving or dying. Don't get me wrong, guys, the star power does save him every now and then, and it can be beneficial, but I don't think that it actually impacts battle very often. So then, in case you didn't catch on, which star power is better? I'd have to say that carrying Crow is likely the better star power. I will say that my perspective might change after trying to play Crow without extra toxic, because like I've been playing Crow with extra toxic for so long now, and I mean, he's kind of felt weak regardless, but maybe after I've, you know, played him without extra toxic and I can see what it's like again, because, you know, my Crow's maxed out, maybe I'll change my mind. But overall, I would say that neither star power is really amazing. I would be willing to say that extra toxic is a B tier star power, and that carrying Crow will be an A tier star power, maybe leaning toward the B tier, and I think in most situations you're going to be better off with carrying Crow. Up next, we have Bo's newest star power, Snare A Bear. With this star power, Bo's traps now stun the enemy for 2 seconds instead of knocking them back. For reference, that's right, guys, that's just as long as Frank's super will stun enemy players, and during that time the enemy player will not be able to move. They will also not be able to attack. Additionally, getting stun will interrupt enemy attacks that take a long time to activate, like a Barley super or a Frank attack. And on top of that, one thing to note is that stuns do not stack if you get hit by more than 1 mine. However, the stun clock does reset if you get stunned by 1 and then you get stunned by another one, and because of that, I guess technically, if a teammate activates 1 at the perfect time, you could be stunned for up to 4 seconds. If you get stunned for 6 seconds because your teammates are idiots, then that would be really unfortunate. But what I think is most likely to happen is that, like, you get stunned by 1 and you're like, you have no idea where the other 2 are, and so you just like sneak around, you accidentally activate another one and you get taken out because, you know, you've been stunned for 4 seconds. Now you're gonna be dead. Like, there's no way an enemy team is gonna be so stupid that they're not gonna notice somebody's just trapped there for 4 seconds and not take you out. But I will say, it's very likely that you'll actually get stunned and be like, oh shoot, I don't want to go touch that other mine, so I'm going to walk back in the exact same direction that I came from and avoid the other mines completely. And that is actually interesting, because the fact that we're taking away Bo's knockback mechanic is in some ways it's a benefit because the stun is beneficial, but it's also kind of not beneficial, because sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a mine, it's blown me, knocked me back toward the other mines, and then I get blown up by them just because I'm getting knocked around. And that will not happen. So while the star power is absolutely a benefit, it won't always be a benefit, because if a player gets stunned and they survive that enemy fire, they're going to be able to retreat in the exact same direction and avoid getting stunned. Now, with that said, playing against players that aren't paying attention or don't know where a Bo's mine was placed, and they don't know how to deactivate the mines, this is going to crush them. They're just going to get wrecked. But this is a competitive tier list, and competitive players, they know how to disarm those mines, and they're going to be able to avoid it very easily. Then we have Bo's original star power, Circling Eagle. For this star power, Bo spots enemies hidden in bushes from 100% longer distance than normal. This increases his sight range in bushes from 2 tiles to 4 tiles, which can actually be really amazing on maps with lots of bushes. The biggest perk to this star power is the fact that Bo can actually see close range brawlers hiding in a bush before he's in danger of getting too close to them. On maps with lots of bushes, like Double Swoosh, Cavern Churn, or Snake Prairie, this star power is incredibly OP because his teammates also get to see that sight range, and it makes him very dominant. But there's also a lot of maps out there that don't have a whole lot of bushes, and that renders his star power essentially useless. So then, which star power is better? You have Snare A Bear, which is beneficial, but not always, because it takes away the knockback, and you know, pro players are gonna be able to disarm those traps regardless. And then of course you have Circling Eagle, which is great on really bushy maps and useless on open maps. So both these star powers have their uses, but we do have to remember this is a competitive tier list, and as such, while I think the Snare A Bear is excellent against less skilled players, I'm only going to give an A tier ranking. More times than not, I think it'll be useful, but it's certainly not worthy of that S tier position. As for Circling Eagle, it's tricky to decide where to place it, as it's so good in some situations and useless in others. I think for now, I will put it in the B tier, with the disclaimer that it is amazing on the right map, and more times than not, it's just kind of nice to have. It doesn't really impact the match very much. Then, of course, guys, we've got Tick with his newest star power, Automatic Reload. Automatic Reload. Automatic Reload. I see what you guys did there, Supercell. And you guys thought my videos were cringe. With Automatic Reload, Tick's reload time is 15% shorter, or 15% faster. This star power will make Tick's reload speed to be the same as Spike's, Leon's, or Terra's reload speed. So still definitely on the slower side as far as reload speeds go, but much better than his current reload speed, which is only slightly faster than Piper's, and we all know how slow Piper's reload speed is. The nice thing about this star power is that it will be useful very frequently. Now, I'm certainly not a pro Tick player, but as someone who is decent at the game, I run out of ammo playing Tick all the time. And this definitely will allow Tick to do more damage, and I'm really excited to try it out against competitive players. I have played it against bots, but bots kind of suck. Up next is Tick's original star power, Welloiled. When Tick takes no damage and does not attack, he starts recovering health 2 seconds faster than normal. Now, for clarity, normally it takes a brawler 3 seconds to start healing, but this allows Tick to do so after only 1 second. It's a 66% buff to that healing time, which is kind of crazy. This is actually very strong. At least it would be if Tick had more HP, but Tick does kind of have this sense with his star power of kind of always being at max HP until you make a mistake and you get cornered and die instantly because he has so low HP. In fact, if Tick is constantly unloading his attacks, he still can heal 800 HP between each attack, which takes 2.8 seconds to reload. As far as star powers that passively heal, like Pam's or Barley's, Welloiled just takes the cake. And it's kind of justified though, because Tick does have the lowest HP in the game, and he's very long range. This means that Tick is usually way far away from danger unless he's being stupid, or until his teammates actually get taken out. So in some ways, the star power is actually kind of wasted on him. And on most other brawlers, the star power would be OP. Like, if this was on El Primo, like, he would just be alive all the time. It would be crazy. So then, which of these star powers is better? I think they're both decent. Neither one's game breaking, neither one's useless. I think the Welloiled would be better on a more HP brawler, but Tick is usually very far back from the action and can avoid most of the damage from a distance. Because of this, I would say that Welloiled is an A tier star power, and Automatic Reload is a solid buff to Tick, but it's certainly not enough to change his interactions too much. You know, not game breaking much at least. Because of this, he will have a very slow reload when compared to other brawlers. If you compare it to like Snappy Sniping, another star power that helps with reloading, the difference in the potential is just night and day. Snappy Sniping really needs a nerf. I mean, it's crazy. It's super fun. I love playing Piper now because of it, but you get the idea. With that said, Automatic Reload is active 100% of the time, and the reload speed is one of Tick's weaknesses. So I'll give it an A tier as well. As far as which I would recommend getting first and using most, I think that Automatic Reload will be better if you're a more skilled player who can keep yourself alive. But if you are struggling to push Tick because you keep dying, Welloiled might be a solid option to try and kind of like bridge that gap while you learn those survival skills. Okay, if I'm being honest, I think that it's just a matter of time before Supercell balances these star powers, because it's pretty obvious we need some rebalancing with these star powers, guys. But let's recap which ones I think you should focus on getting first until that actually happens. For Bow, I think the Snare A Bear will offer value more consistently across all maps, while Circling Eagle is very meta specific. For Crow, I believe that Carrying Crow will offer value much more frequently than Extra Toxic, as Extra Toxic rarely impacts those 1v1 interactions. And for Tick, I think you're good with going with either star power, but you will absolutely get more value out of automatic reload. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, make sure you stay tuned for a future video on a tier list for all 54 star powers. It's gonna be good. And also, I really appreciate your guys' comments on that. Something good that happened to you during the last week. For now, this is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in Brawl Stars.